Hello, it's Chris from Cricut. Welcome, we're really glad you're here. This is Cricut 101. I'm just going to do a quick sound check with my buddy Karen, who is answering questions on live chat, and make sure you guys can hear me out there. This is about 2 weeks into this Cricut 101 series, and just so you have some idea of the format of this series, typically one of us, either myself or Anna Rose or Courtney or Natasha, we give kind of an introduction, and then we move to a pre-produced video which we narrate. And everything, all of this content is built specifically for beginners, and the whole idea is we know people are coming in, maybe they're a little hesitant to get started, so we're trying to take it really slow, go step by step. And if you want to join, obviously live, and you're here, that's great. Go ahead and comment on the live chat, ask any questions you want, and Karen will respond. But also, if you want to come back to this, we're going to archive these on demand on the official Cricut YouTube channel under the Cricut 101 playlist. So you can kind of play it both ways. And this project today is really fun. It is a Stay Calm Dragon iron-on t-shirt. And any of you guys out there with kids like me will understand that is a kind of a funny thing to say on a t-shirt with a dragon. But let's just go ahead and dive in. The things you will learn in this episode of Cricut 101 are going to be how to insert text and images onto the canvas, how to use the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide, and how to use the Cricut EasyPress. It's easier than you think. Really good project for beginners. So let's go ahead and what we're going to do is get all right, and you can see I'm kind of just previewing what it looks like here. There are my supplies. You can see I've got the Cricut EasyPress. I've got some iron-on scissors, a weeding tool, my cotton t-shirt. I've got a Cricut EasyPress mat. I've got a roller there and a lint roller as well. We're going to start on the home screen of Design Space. And we're going to go over to the left-hand side and click Images. And then search for Dragon in the top. So here, I just want to show you, and really quick, let me just back up a minute and pause for a second. So there's a lot of different images under Cricut Access, which is our subscription service, which is also, I would say, a great way to start if you're interested in having everything on hand. But there are so many images, over 100,000 images, that it can be a little overwhelming as a beginner. So what we've done is we've made some filters on the left-hand side. You can see where I've frozen the screen there, that you can use filters that filter out complexity. And you can see we've got simple images there. Those are all great one-color images that don't have a lot of weeding involved. They're a lot easier to press than starting in on a very complex mandala, which we see a lot of on social media. People jump in, they start with a very, very complex project, which is fine. You learn by doing, but what we're trying to do with Cricut 101 is give you projects that you can have success with in the beginning and give you confidence moving on, because we learn every time we make small mistakes, but also when we accomplish our goals. So what we're hoping to do is give you some idea of how to make a basic iron-on t-shirt here. And one of the ways to filter out images is using that image selection on the left-hand side under Image Complexity. I'm going to go ahead and play that again. You can see we've got more images coming up if you add the moderate image. And layers is another piece I want to just stop and explain for a minute. There's a lot of lingo that goes on with Cricut. And layers is really, if you think of it, it's just it's the amount of different colors in an image. So as you could see from the beginning, we're just making a white iron-on t-shirt, which is one color of iron-on a red background. Layers would be 3 or 4 different colors. And you can see some images on the screen right now that have multiple layers. So again, single layer, great place to start if you're just a beginner, because it's just one color and it's easy to press. Okay, we'll go ahead, we'll move to the canvas here. And I've got my dragon, and what I'm doing is I'm using the bottom right-hand icon in the bounding box to make the dragon larger. Because I'm kind of centering it on the screen also so I can work with it. But I'm using the grid in the background to kind of measure as well and start thinking about how big I want this thing to be on my t-shirt. Then I'm going to click the T on the left-hand toolbar for text, and I'm going to write out my stay calm message here. And going to the top, I'm just going to show you some fonts here. So if you get Cricut Access, you get access to a bunch of different fonts. And there's a lot of choices up here. So you want to probably go through, maybe put some on a canvas and save it, some of your favorites. That's a way a lot of our members do it. But I knew I wanted this basic level font, and I'm just going to pause for 1 second. Again, just with a nod to the 101 beginner here, you can see this font is great for beginners because there's not a lot of weeding. You can get really, really kind of fancy calligraphy, very thin fonts, or fonts with a lot of weeding out the middle of the letters. This is one that is going to be very easy to separate the vinyl out, and that's this process I keep using, some more lingo called weeding. So this is a great font. It's chunky, and there's not a lot of weeding for beginners. I'll go ahead and hit play again. Oh, sorry. There it goes. All right, it seems to be frozen. There it goes. Sorry about that. Align it one more time. And now I'm going to change the color of this because, as I mentioned, white is the color iron-on I have, and it looks really good on a red t-shirt. So now I can envision what this is going to look like. And I'm going to group it again. Whoops, I missed both of them there. I've got both the letters and the image. I'm going to go down to attach in the bottom right-hand corner. And this actually keeps the entire image as one, and I can cut it as one piece on my mat. And this is the cut screen here. And one thing you really want to do, I'm going to pause again really quick because I caught myself moving too fast. So that little button on the left-hand side represents a very common Cricut beginner mistake, and that's mirror. And what you're doing there is you're basically changing the image around so that it appears correctly on your t-shirt. And when you're using iron-on or our infusible ink, which is also a type of iron-on, you want to make sure you hit mirror, or else you're going to be disappointed because your shirt is going to look backwards. You're going to have backwards letters, just like you can see on the mat right now. So very common beginner mistake, which I've made many times. Okay, now I'm going to just go down and hit continue. Whoop, I'm going to move that just a little bit. You can move this image on the cut mat as well in this screen. So I just hit the bottom right-hand green prompt. You're always just kind of following the green prompts as you move through this process. And here I'm going to select my material. And I've just got some everyday iron-on. You can see in the top right that I'm going to select. And now Design Space, which is our software, is kind of walking us through the process, making sure we have the correct tools loaded, the material loaded. So you're just following these instructions as you go. And I'm kind of just showing you what it looks like in Design Space. We'll switch over to what I'm actually physically doing in a minute. Okay, there's my green mat. I'm going to put my iron-on on. And I'm going to just kind of unroll some of my white iron-on here. And you can see what I'm doing here is using the grid on the mat, which, just like the grid on the canvas in Design Space, allows you to measure things in either centimeters or inches. And so you can start to figure out, what size material you need and how you want to put that on the t-shirt. So measurement is something that you kind of get the hang of. But it's something you want to think about in this stage when you're putting your material on the mat. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that material out. And I'm going to place it in the top left-hand corner, shiny side down. That's another important beginner mistake that I've made before. I want to make sure you put the shiny side of your iron-on down. And I'm just going to roll it here to make sure it sticks for a nice cut. And you'll see in this project there happens to be a couple of little bubbles that it's not perfectly flat on the, you can see I'm pressing them down there on the mat, but that's really not going to be a problem. It doesn't have to be perfect. So a lot of people think it has to be perfectly flat. Get it as flat as you can, but you'll see as we go through this project that this is going to turn out just fine. So here I am moving over to my maker. You can see the go button flashing there. I'm pushing it in a little bit, and that's another thing. I'll just stop for a second. That was another kind of trick that you really want to think about when you're putting the material into your machine. Because if you don't give it that little nudge as you're pushing the button, it doesn't get aligned in the guides correctly. So you don't need to push it hard, but make sure that you've got some pressure up against that mat as you're hitting that load button. Okay, now we're going to hit that go button, the flashing C. And I'm going to switch back to Design Space just to show you what it looks like. And I did speed this up a little bit just so you know. But it gives you a little fun gauge, and you're starting to understand like where you're at in the process of cutting this image out for your t-shirt. Almost done there, 96, 100%. And again, I did speed this up just a little bit, but this is where it's pretty fun to watch. It's mesmerizing to watch these things if you've never seen a Cricut at work. This is, this is where you realize this is something that'd be very difficult to cut out by hand with this level of precision. Really cool. And now you can see the load button was flashing again at me, and I just pulled the mat out of the machine. And now we're going to move on to weeding here. Which is this process of separating the vinyl out from the design. And what I'm going to do here is just grab a corner with my weeding tool of the vinyl. You can see it starts to separate from the backer there. And what I'm going to do is really just use my hands. Since this is a very simple image and it's also fairly large, I find that weeding with your hands in these kinds of instances works just as well as using a weeding tool. People have different preferences, but I just like to feel the vinyl coming off of the backer in my hand, and it helps me to understand how much pressure I can apply so that I don't rip my design. You can start to see the dragon emerging on the backer there. And this is also a really fun part because you start to realize, how professional your t-shirt is going to look as this kind of image takes place and the extra vinyl comes off of the backer. And you can see there it's coming off of my letters, and I'm starting to get very careful with the beginning, or I'm sorry, with the center of my design here, so that I'm not ripping anything off or pulling anything off as I go. But you can see that's coming off fairly easily. And if you want to check your design in Design Space at this time, this is a good time to understand kind of what part you want to take off and what part you want to leave on. So sometimes you kind of get confused as you're weeding, and you can check back at your image in Design Space. And I will just say, this should be fun. I do make a mistake in this weeding process, and I'd be interested to know if anybody catches it. And I will show you kind of the work backward from that mistake at the end. I've been at this for more than a year, and it's still easy to make small mistakes. So you catch them and you move on. This is the way we learn. So you can see I've got the dragon pretty much weeded out. I'm just taking the eye out with my weeding tool there. That's really the only piece I needed the weeding tool for. And you can see we're almost ready to press here. I'm just taking a few more pieces out. Okay, there's the bottom of his jaw there. And that's looking pretty good. Always want to check your letters and make sure there aren't pieces in the inside, like inside of E's and P's and D's. Those are all really good places to check in this process of weeding. All right, it's looking like we're really close to pressing here. So I'm going to move to Google and just put in Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. And this is going to be kind of your little kitty of instruction for this project. And it gives you a little easy to use tool. You pick your press, you pick your material here. Everyday iron-on is what I'm using. You pick your base material, which in this case is 100% cotton. It's a t-shirt on the top. There it is right there. And I've also got a EasyPress mat. So I'm going to hit all those and hit apply. And you can see it comes up with the temperature and the sequence, what supplies you'll need, how you prep your iron-on, and how you use your EasyPress. So this is really the main instructional source as you're going through. And you can find that off our website, but I usually just Google Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. Here we are at the EasyPress, and I'm just setting the temperature and the time. To set the time, you hit the timer and you hit plus or minus, and then you hit the timer again. And to set the temperature, you do the same sequence, hitting the temperature, then plus or minus, and then hitting it again, and waiting until it gets to where you want it according to the heat transfer guide. And I will say, when I was beginning at Cricut, I did a lot of cardstock and vinyl to start with, and I was a little intimidated by the EasyPress. I wasn't sure I was ready for that, but I will say, go for it. This is an easy beginner level project, and as long as you pick the correct types of images and you aren't doing something that's has a lot of crazy weeding, this is a really, really good project for beginners to do. I'm going to do a little lint rolling here, and one thing I will mention is, and this says it in the EasyPress too, you're going to have better luck if you wash your t-shirt first. Don't just take it right out of the package. What you want to do is wash it and then lint roll it. Okay, now you can see I'm going to start to put my design, and you can see when I mentioned the mirror there that now it's looking like I want it to be on the actual shirt. So I've got the kind of the matte material facing down, and the shiny backer is up, and it's looking exactly like I want it to appear on my t-shirt. And here I'm just kind of measuring with my hands. A lot of people use a ruler or a tape measure there. I tend to just use 3 fingers down from the collar of the shirt and kind of eye it. I did my pre-press there, again, according to the EasyPress instructions, just a few seconds. And then while it's still warm, I'm going to go ahead and put that iron-on design back on there and get ready for my main press. Okay, I've got that positioned pretty well. Some last-minute adjustments there. And you're starting to see how good that white is going to look on the red. That's another thing that I've learned about Cricut is just the matching colors thing is really fun. I didn't think that was going to be as interesting as it is. And I've made some things that didn't turn out so well because the color match wasn't great. And I learned from that as well. But I have learned from experience that white and red go really well together on an iron-on t-shirt. Okay, it looks like we're ready for our final press here. Another thing you want to do is make sure the press goes over everything on that backer. So you don't want to miss pieces and have an incomplete transfer. So you want to make sure you carefully put that press over everything. And you can see I'm holding on to it. I'm not pressing down hard as if I'm ironing something. This is just really holding it in place for the time designated in the Cricut Heat Transfer Guide. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to take that hot EasyPress and put it back over on the base. And one of the things, and there's some time that elapsed here, but you want to wait until this cools down to peel. So you want to do a cool peel and iron on. You can see I'm pulling at a 45-degree angle here. And this is really the fun part, the reveal. And there it is, my Stay Calm Dragon t-shirt. And I'm just going to pause it for 1 second. And I will say, I mentioned that I made a mistake earlier, and I'm going to show you the actual shirt here. I'm going to come back to my, okay, all right. So here is the actual shirt, and this is the correct press that I did, but as I mentioned, I made a mistake, and here's the initial one I did it on the same shirt. You can see that I forgot to weed a piece of this dragon. And again, even after a year, sometimes you just forget pieces, and I forgot to take that piece out, so you can see the difference. But, as I mentioned before, every little lesson like that is a skill that I will take to the next project. So super valuable lesson. I'm just going to check into my chat here. It looks like we've got some folks. Hello, Linda. Hello, Tamika. Awesome. There's some folks on here. Hi, Rolanda. Hi, Jacqueline. Awesome. So glad you guys could join us. It looks like you've been keeping Karen busy. Cool. Well, so if you guys have any other questions, again, we're going to post this on demand on the Cricut 101 playlist on the official Cricut YouTube channel, so you can come back at it then. We're doing these basically 3 times a week through January 8th. You can find the schedule on the Cricut blog. Thank you so much for joining us. Go out and make something cool.